Hi, I'm Bryce Crittenden.
Hi, I'm Caroline Land, and welcome back to EPL's Overdue Finds.
Caroline, Happy New Year.
Same to you, Bryce.
January 1st, this episode's being released.
Yeah,
We may be recording this in the past,
we
but
are.
especially to our listeners, big Happy New Year to all of you who listen. Let's face it, we've got 2020 in the rear view mirror, and hopefully it's nothing but positivity moving forward, right?
I agree with you. I'm right there with you. That's what I wish for everyone in 2021. I'm also a little nervous. I don't know. I'm not usually this superstitious about things, but I kind of want to just like avert my gaze and not focus too much on I don't want to jinx it. I think I'm superstitious.
I'm definitely superstitious.
Okay.
But at the same time, though, everybody's been through a lot this
That's
past
true.
year, and yeah, just got to try and stay positive. There's lots of good news on the horizon. We got vaccines are slowly rolling out. The NHL starts up in like 12 days, so Bryce is pretty excited here.
Well, that's good. Like, so I think, when we start to see some of those things happening again, you're right. It's important to be hopeful and to kind of see how we can do things and do them safely and make sure that we are figuring things out how to do them the best possible way because yeah, I mean, 2021 is a new year. There's still lots of 2021 yet to come, given that this comes out on January 1st. And yeah, I hope for the best for everyone listening, for you, for our team, and hopefully entering into 2021.
Definitely. So today, kind of along that sentiment, we today, of course, we are chatting all about New Year's resolutions,
Mhm.
things we're doing. Not only Caroline and myself, but also other EPL staff members are doing to help kind of get through the next few months. Obviously, everybody's excited that it is a new year, but we're also kind of coming up on that weird time of the year where Christmas is over, but we are kind of heading into those really dark months. And yeah, we're just going to be chatting about different things that we're going to be doing to kind of help pass the time, and maybe some new hobbies or activities that us and EPL staff members are doing. So we don't normally get to record just me and you. Like, we
Yeah.
of course always love to have staff members on with us, but with with right now, EPL of course is doing library takeout. So I know that not as many staff are on, and the ones that are extremely busy, kind of answering phone lines and bringing people their holds. So, Caroline, I have to ask, as somebody on the front line,
Mhm.
how has library takeout been so far?
It's been really wonderful. We've been running it for about a week and a half. As of this recording, it'll be closer to the end of 3 weeks by the time this comes out. And we have been very busy at Capilano. A lot of people have been coming in. It was really wonderful to see the excitement and customers were just so thankful. The last day before we closed and headed into library takeout, a lot of people thought that was it, and we were still working things out right up into the last minute to figure out what we could offer while staying in line with the provincial mandates for our services right now. And people were just so thankful that they could still put stuff on hold and come and check it out. And that has been um, carried through the first week and a half of library takeout, seeing customers come in, people picking up a lot of items that they'll have over the holidays if maybe they have some time off. It's Everyone has been really understanding of the limits and the systems that we've had to put in place to make sure that we're doing this in the safest way possible for everyone. And it's just been wonderful to be able to keep that contact with customers through this period.
Mhm. Yeah, just last week, just after Library Takeout started, I had stopped by. Riverbend is my home branch, and so I stopped by there to pick up a hold. And the person in front of me, they were like basically they had like two giant bags full of books, so they were clearly stocking up, and they were so excited to get those holds. So yeah, it's really encouraging that we're still, even though we are in the midst of lockdown, obviously customers are still able to kind of borrow those physical items from us, and we're so happy that yeah, customers can still pick up their books and movies and video games and all of that fun stuff that normally we talk about here
Yeah.
on the show.
And I just want to give a quick shout out. You mentioned that I'm on the front lines in one of the branches, but to make that something like this happen takes the entire system at EPL, and from the drivers who are making sure the material gets around the city, the staff taking care of some of the branches that are closed, the facilities department making sure that we still have heat even though our buildings might say that we're closed. To our acquisitions department for making sure that we have the supplies to get those bags that people can then stuff full of books or have stuffed full of books by staff. The directors, for everyone, for figuring out what would be possible in this system, marketing for telling people that we were offering this and answering questions through social media. It really has been the whole system working towards these services. And I'm just really glad that we've been able to do that for customers.
Yeah, the amount of people working behind the scenes is incredible, and we can't thank everybody enough, and all the staff, hopefully listening to this episode anyway. So, yeah, before we get talking today about New Year's resolutions and all that fun stuff, let's chat about recent overdue finds. Caroline, what have you? I know you've been super busy at the branch, but what have you been enjoying lately?
I've enjoyed a new book that came out in September. It's called One by One by Ruth Ware. Now, Bryce, have you read anything by Ruth Ware?
I can say honestly
Okay.
say I have not. Should I though? It sounds like
I
I should.
I had not before this year, and then I picked one up. I think it was on our hits to go, which are the best sellers that we circulate here at the library, and I was hooked. It's a page turner. She writes kind of thriller mysteries. One of the more famous ones from her last couple of years was The Woman in Cabin 10, which is about someone who sees they're on a cruise ship and she sees someone go overboard, but when she alerts the staff on the cruise, they find out no, everyone's accounted for. I don't know what you saw, and then she has to figure out who was this person, what happened, all of this stuff. So One by One is a very similar remote location mystery thriller, a tech startup. It's called Snoop, and it's kind of like Shazam meets, I don't know, Tinder in a way of like pairing people up, but there's this like physical location aspect to it. Anyway, it's a tech startup. They go to a remote luxury chalet for a retreat slash team meeting slash vacation. So there's 10 of them. There's two people in the chalet. There's the chef and there's the housekeeper who's running the place. And they're there and they've got all this drama, and then there's an avalanche. And the
Oh no.
chalet is only accessible, like they go to great lengths to explain that the chalet is only accessible by a funicular that goes up the mountain, and then it gets buried in the avalanche. And then they realize not everyone made it back from skiing. So while
Mm,
they're trying to figure out what to do and how to like raise the alert and all of this while they're stuck in this chalet, then people start dying and it's clear that they're being murdered.
mm.
So they're stuck there, people are dying, or are they?
Oh.
So there's a lot. It's a thriller and very fast paced. It grabbed me immediately, and not a lot of books have done that this year. You know, it's, I'm one of the people who said I've had a hard time maybe getting in and staying in on books. I've read, I think, everything Ruth Ware has ever written this year because it's just spoken to me for what I'm looking for, and I guess that's remote location murder.
Oh, there you go. Maybe that should be the title of today's episode. No,
I don't know.
maybe not.
I don't know.
Um,
Yeah, one of the key pieces of it are these characters that you don't know how you feel about. Everyone always has secrets. They're revealed slowly. She has a lot. She has, I think, about 5 or 6 books, very similar. If it's not a cruise ship, it's a bachelorette party in a remote English cabin, or one is kind of a loosely inspired by the turn of the screw about a governess slash nanny. But the update is that it's a smart house that kind of tracks like a lot of movement and reports on you, and there's video cameras, all of that. But I really enjoyed One by One.
Ruth Ware sounds almost like a modern day Agatha Christie by kind of how you're describing those books. So I have to ask, like, obviously you've read a few of her books now. Are there kind of any similar, like, do you see some of the same characters pop up in some of these books? Like, are they connected, or are these just like total one-offs?
Totally separate. So you can dive in wherever you'd like, which is great because One by One is the most recent one and just came out. So it probably has a few people waiting for it on the holds list, but some of her older works I know are available. So you can check those out pretty quickly.
Nice. I've been reading a lot of nonfiction lately, and nonfiction's fine, but I really want to get back into reading kind of more of those type of thriller and page turners anyway. So
Yeah.
I might have to start with some Ruth Ware here in the new year.
And this one was really good. She goes into detail describing all about this chalet and the ski slopes, and it's, I think, Alps, all of this. And so the first like 75 pages, I'm like, oh, it'll be so good when we can travel again, and really looking forward to trying new things, and then oh no, maybe I don't want to go to a remote
No,
luxury chalet.
no, stay away from that, especially with like groups of smaller groups anyway, like
Yeah.
12 and 10 and that
Yeah.
sort of thing.
But
So
then it's, and I was thinking about this kind of as I was reading. Um, you're in a chalet. There's probably a murderer. Let's assume you are not the murderer. How would you behave, right? Like, would you like just stay with everyone the whole time so that you were never alone? Would you like proclaim your innocence? Because that seems like what someone who was guilty would do. I don't know. I think I need to think a bit more about how I might act if I was in that situation.
well, as somebody who's watched my fair share of like thrillers and horror movies, I think we've all learned the lesson that you never split up. Like you have to stick in those groups. So that would be kind of
Mhm.
my main goal right there is
Yeah.
nobody's leaving this room. We're all
Yeah.
sticking together. So
Yeah. Good tip. That's a good
yeah,
tip.
that's right.
So, what have you enjoyed recently?
Yeah. So recently for myself, just kind of, I was perusing through Hoopla the other night and noticed a documentary, and I remember seeing the ad for it or the trailer for it earlier in the year. As a kid, first of all, I have to ask, Caroline, were you a Ren and Stimpy fan?
No.
No.
I don't think I've seen a single episode. I was definitely aware of it. Knew that there were like lines and catchphrases that people used. But no, wasn't my scene.
When I was in junior high, I was in junior high when Ren and Stimpy first came out. So this is in the early 90s. And I was weird because like I think that was the first show that like much music, like scripted or animated show that much music actually aired. And then of course now they don't air music
Anything
videos and
but
all.
yeah.
I think Ren and Stimpy really kicked that off. But as a young teenager, absolutely loved Ren and Stimpy. So they do have a documentary on Hoopla right now that I really enjoyed watching called Happy Happy Joy Joy, the Ren and Stimpy story. So it was actually really interesting because I haven't watched an episode in years. And as I go, as I'm watching this documentary and they're talking about the influence of the animated series and how it was originally a Nickelodeon cartoon. So it was, and it really was intended for children to watch. However, if you go back and you watch any episodes of Ren and Stimpy, this was absolutely not a show for kids to be watching at all. Like huge subliminal sexual messages and all this other stuff. So it's funny because in kind of, I guess, in the animated community, or the community who's like really interested in animated shows and movies, like this was Ren and Stimpy still is a huge cult hit, and of course a lot of people like myself grew up watching it. So basically the documentary goes into kind of the influence of the cartoon, but more specifically about the creator, John Kay. He's actually originally Canadian. So that's kind of where the documentary really gets into kind of the nitty gritty stuff. Just basically because John Kay was kind of like a almost like a dictator when they were making the show. Like brilliant guy, however, really rough on the staff. And then we learned some things that basically about him kind of after the show's off the air that were happening kind of because of his notoriety around Ren and Stimpy that really have now almost kind of plagued the show. So basically he was booted off the show after the first season, and I won't kind of get into some of the allegations against him. But what's really interesting about it is it kind of really makes you think about, and we've come across this a lot over the last few years, are we still able to enjoy certain things even though the creators have done not so great things in real life? So, the debate came up, a few years ago, obviously, with like the Cosby Show and, a few other things like that. Like, are you still able to kind of separate kind of the entertainment from the person in real life? And this is what kind of the documentary does explore, just because now it is almost like this tainted legacy for the show. So you didn't have to watch Ren and Stimpy growing up to enjoy the documentary, but it's funny because Cheryl wasn't a big fan growing up, and she really enjoyed the documentary, just kind of getting to know the story behind how the series came to be, and then all this other stuff that had happened with the creator. So yeah, it's a documentary that's available on Hoopla. You can stream it instantly, and I highly recommend it.
Yeah, it sounds like you say, you don't need to know Ren and Stimpy specifically because it almost like stands in for so much in media and entertainment by raising these questions or having a similar situation to other shows or artists. And I really enjoy watching entertainment documentaries. So
Mhm.
that I think you may have sold me on checking this out.
Nice. Well, you have to let me know what you think of it. And yeah, like I said, it's really interesting because they have the executive producer on who kind of greenlit this show for Nickelodeon, and she's talking about these allegations and everything that have come to light, and she's just like, now I kind of feel sick. Like Ren and Stimpy was my baby, and then now this stuff was happening because of the success of the show, and I just don't enjoy it. I can't like look at it in the same light. So yeah, it's interesting, it's sad, and yeah, I can't recommend it enough.
Has Ren and Stimpy been rebooted, revisited?
They did try and reboot it. Spike TV kind of, and they talk about this in the documentary, but Spike TV did kind of reboot it with the original creator John Kay. Um, in, I want to say it was like the early 2000s, like 2000 maybe 5 or 6 or something like that, and it was just so off the wall and definitely not kind of appropriate for network TV. Apparently it only lasted like 2 or 3 episodes, so you can find them, I guess, on DVD if you're a really big fan. But yeah, it's just kind of one of those projects now that's unfortunately tainted.
Well, interesting, and good documentary to check out.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, today we are chatting. It's brand new year 2021. We're chatting all about New Year's resolutions and different ways we're going to be spending here these kind of long winter months coming up. Caroline, so I have to ask you,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on New Year's resolutions? And did you make any for this year?
My thoughts on New Year's resolutions, I think, can be boiled down to sure. I like the idea of them. I get why people might want to do them. I think it's a natural time. I know that one of the criticisms of them is don't wait to do something, especially if like it's, I don't know, September, October, and you're like, oh, I really want to do this. I'm gonna wait, and that'll be my New Year's resolution. Just do it, right? Like just go for it. And so that's why I think there are lots of times in the year that kind of represent fresh starts. And New Year's is one of them. It's a pretty clear, I mean, the calendar, we put up a new one. If people still do that, do people still put up
I
calendars?
can honestly say that we do in our household here. Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, just the other night, Cheryl was like, "Which calendar are we going to get this year?" And it's a big thing, a little bit of a debate going on every year in our household, anyway.
Mhm.
So yeah, we're old school. We use a wall
Okay.
calendar.
Well, and I remember that my grandmother, she was like speaking of superstitions, which we were at the beginning of the year, she would never put it up before the year started. So that's what she did on New Year's. She would, stay up till midnight, watch the ball drop. If, maybe make a quick phone call to wish someone Happy New Year, put up the calendar, and then go to bed. And then that was it. But she would never do it ahead of time. But so yeah, I think there are a few times in a year, the back to school season in the fall, summer, even spring, like anytime the seasons change. But I understand, I get why people are drawn to New Year's resolutions. I think I'm not surprised by many of them failing. I think it's hard. It's hard to change and to incorporate new things into your life, and that's why this year I have a lot of kind of things in the back of my mind, but the only one I've actually kind of committed myself to is in 2021. I want to drink more water.
Mm,
I think it's really staying hydrated is so important, and especially through a time when I've been noticing, my body a lot more, paying attention to, how I'm feeling, if I have any potential symptoms of anything. It's amazing how much can be resolved by just having some water, staying hydrated, taking care of yourself. So I'm going to recommit to that, and actually water, not trying to trick myself by saying like, oh, this other thing that isn't actually water counts as water. Some of it does. I'm not a nutritionist. Do not take your health advice from me. Consult your actual medical team before doing anything. But hydration
yes.
is going to be my focus for 2021.
It's so important. I don't know how many times I've had a headache, and I know for a fact it just ends up being because I'm dehydrated. And like, yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. I don't normally kind of set. I shouldn't say that. Every now and then, I'm one of those people though who are kind of like, oh well, I'll do that on January 1st. I'll continue to eat terribly, but then January
Yeah.
1st, it's like, I'm going to turn into this like a vegan all of a sudden, and that never happens. Um, Speaking of water, I'm a person, I will admit this, I drink way too much soda. But for me, I found actually it's really helped, especially working from home the last little while, is we have a soda stream. So it's kind of nice because then you kind of get that you're just drinking like straight water, put maybe a little bit of lemon in it, and you still kind of get that bubbly sensation there. So we are not sponsored, by the way, by SodaStream, but if they
No,
want to come on
but
board, I would love to totally support that. Yeah, for me also a couple years ago too. Yeah, I tried to. I always want to read more, and it's funny because a lot of times on the podcast I'm like, oh, I watched, like I recommend a lot of movies, and it's mostly because I am a slow reader. But I remember a few years ago, I had a goal for myself to read 12 books in a year. I was like, one book a month, I'm going to do this, and I was good for like the first 3 months, but then it just kind of goes away because nobody's really talking about New Year's resolutions anymore.
and it's hard to keep going. I think the one of the strategies that gets talked about is having, I don't, this might be more like, I don't know if this applies to resolutions, but like an accountability buddy, as someone you kind of report to or report back to, and not to make it too serious, but if you were reading 12 books along with
Mhm.
someone, or even if it was just every month or 6 weeks or whatever, you get together with someone who's maybe reading different books or check in about it. And there's that, but there's probably a lot that's been written about internal and external motivation for things. And um, I think that external factor can have a bit of an impact on carrying through
Mhm.
resolutions.
So, Caroline, maybe me and you can just check in with each other. I'll be like, Caroline,
Mhm.
how much water have you drank today?
Oh, the like, honestly, that would definitely, I would come in with a plan. I was like, "We could release them as bonus
That's right.
episodes." It would be the worst bonus series I think a podcast has ever
Yeah, I don't know.
done,
I don't think
but
there's too many podcasts where it's just one person checking
just
in on a couple of people checking in on each other just to see how much water they drank. They would just be like 5-minute episodes, but yeah.
yeah, and it's like strategy. It's like, "Here's what I noticed, so here's what I did." I don't know, but it is, and I think that's a piece of it, for me, for sure, is knowing that there's that reporting piece, because otherwise it becomes the, "Oh, well, I didn't do it today. I'll try it tomorrow," and then it starts
Mhm.
snowballing. So do you make a resolution for this year?
It's funny because I didn't until, and we kind of teased this at the beginning of the episode. We had reached out to EPL staff and we had asked them to share with us some of their New Year's resolutions. And I want to share this one with you, Caroline, because when I read it, I was like, yes, this is me. This is what I want to do. This came in through, I know our good friend Joshua Carr, who's sent us lots of feedback before on other episodes. So, Joshua, I love this so much that I'm also going to do it. So he said, my New Year's resolution is reading every book I own and not buying anymore. But this also means not taking out as much from the library because I have a good bookshelf and I just want it done. Caroline, right now, I'm recording from home. I'm staring at my bookshelf is like right in front of me, and I've got so many books over the last few years that I've purchased that I'm one of those weird people. It's like I like buying books, I think, more than reading them for some strange reason. So for me, I was like, you know what, that's such a great idea that Joshua had that I'm also going to do that too. I do have a couple books that I have to read as for some upcoming podcast interviews that we're going to be doing. But other than that, yeah, I'm full steam ahead. I've got like 5 or 6 Stephen King books I need to read.
Ooh, I think that, I mean, they're already kind of tailored for
Mhm.
you, right? Like, I'm sure there are probably some gifts
Mhm.
in there or books that you felt that, maybe you should read and are not quite sure about, but other than that, like, you bought them for a
Yeah,
reason, so you already know, like, there's a lot of great potential there.
I know we have the personal picks program at EPL, and this is like my own personal picks. Like they're just sitting
Yeah,
there.
from past
Past
Bryce.
Bryce was like, you need to read the novel of the Running Man, Bryce. Like, you need to read this. So yeah, that's me and Joshua. Apparently this year we're going to be trying to get through our bookshelf. Caroline, I have to ask you though, are you with you being a librarian, I've always wondered this. I know a lot of librarians do own a lot of books, but are you
Yeah.
similar to me where like you love buying books and they just kind of sit on your shelf?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that um, that was something that I went through earlier this year during the period where the library was closed and I wasn't at work and I had some more free time during the day in particular. And I wanted to buy books so badly. I was like, "Oh, this is what I need." And then I would just glance over and see the stack already there. So I did start working through some of those, and that worked out really well. I think for me, my twist on this might be that because I do still want to read some of the newer stuff that's coming out, but it might be about the stuff I place on
Mm.
hold. And I've said this to staff when they see me checking out my giant stack of books, is that I love the optimism of the Caroline who puts these things on hold. And then I check them out and I carry them home and then carry them back. And there's a lot of stuff that I don't end up reading. And I mean, that's one of the reasons why a library is so great because I can dip in and out and not commit fully to things, but I think another good one for me might be to increase my percentage of books that I check out, reading books that I
Yeah.
check out. Yeah. Other staff who told us what they were thinking of doing in this next year. Cassidy Monroe, a past guest from one of our branches here, said, "Last year my resolution was to do a buy nothing year. Let me tell you, my chosen form of stress relief is online shopping. And with the stress of a pandemic, that resolution did not last long. This year, I'm going to be a little easier on myself and try again, but just with clothing. I'm going to attempt to buy only secondhand or only patterns and fabric to make my own clothing items. So it's a resolution and a new hobby all in one." Have you ever tried, Bryce, a buy nothing year?
I that was another I have not, but that was also another resolution that I think isn't a bad idea. It's funny because Cheryl and I just a couple of weeks ago we went through a lot of closets and we're just donating some old clothes and a few other things to kind of take to like Goodwill. And we were kind of at that stage where we've been in our condo now for like over 10 years and we're running out of space. So probably buy nothing like just going a year without buying new stuff is probably a good idea for me. How about you?
I've never done it. I've read about it. I know that there have been different kind of versions of this. Elizabeth Withy, who was a past writer in
Mm.
residence here at the library, I believe actually the year that she did her writer in residence ship, her spin on this was that she wore the same thing every day and didn't buy any new clothes or wear anything else, and that really focused it down for her. And I know she wrote about what that was like. I don't know if I could do buy nothing. I could probably do it for clothes, but I would have to, I think, maybe strategically think about my wardrobe first.
I'm like Cassie a little bit. It is kind of a stress reliever for me, to before when it was a lot safer to go to the malls and buy a shirt or hat or something like that anyway. And it totally does relieve stress for me. So it would be very difficult. But yeah, Cheryl and I have kind of made a commitment this year to try and spend a little bit less on stuff because quite frankly, we're just running out of room. We need to move into a bigger place apparently. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So good luck, Cassidy.
yeah,
We're rooting for you.
absolutely. The one common theme that we did see from staff, Caroline, was that a lot of librarians were, picking up and doing a lot more sewing and making their own clothes. So I thought that was really cool. I just want to share note that Andrea Sonnenberg has sent us. So Andrea said, my resolutions are to get through my hemming pile and to finish up my sewing projects for starters. I'm also hoping to finally finish crocheting a blanket that I've had on the go for well over a year. And if I'm able, I would love to be able to have a workout schedule again, as I was not able to for the last 3 to 4 months because of rigorous school schedule and also working. So yeah, so there we go. Another staff member who wants to kind of get back into sewing and kind of finishing up a blanket that she was making. And that's one other thing too that she touched on as well, was working out. So yeah, as somebody who's been working from home since March, it's been tough to try and get back on some sort of workout schedule without having any equipment or anything like that. So yeah, good luck, Andrea, because I know it can definitely be a challenge, especially too as we're heading into these really cold months. It's also, it's not as easy, I guess, to go outside and kind of go for well, you can still go for a walk, but I'm one of those really weird fair weather people. Like, the wind is blowing at 20 kilometers an hour today, I cannot go outside.
I remember from earlier this year that you have a really good map in your head of all the pedways
Yes.
and how to get from one place to another while staying
Yeah,
inside.
it's true. Yeah, I kind of self-dubbed myself the mayor of the pedways because people will ask me at work. It's like, Bryce, can I walk inside from like here to like Manulife Place? And I'm like, absolutely. You go here, you can almost get to the Edmonton Journal by staying inside the whole time. So yeah, it's I miss having that kind of that walk, which I don't really get anymore from working at home.
Another resolution that staff shared with us, Christy Travis, her resolution is to start a blog. I've been compiling some material over the last year, and I think I'm finally ready to get going on it. And writing was another one that a couple staff
Mhm.
mentioned, either getting into or wanting to maybe take their writing to the next level or share it publicly. And there are a few writing courses that we have through things like Gale courses on our website, as well as lynda.com. So there are some resources that the library has for helping people take that next step.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, especially if you are inside here over the next few months, like if you've ever really started, if you've ever really thought about kind of starting that blog or writing that book finally, like now is the absolute perfect time to be doing it. And yeah, best of luck to those staff who do want to continue on with writing.
As of this recording, the province is still in lockdown and we've all been searching for ways to try and keep busy. How do you plan on passing the next few months?
Yeah, so besides reading, as I've talked about already, one other thing too that I started a few years ago was I bought a Raspberry Pi, and I'm not really the most. I can do kind of basic technology stuff, but Raspberry Pi was a big step for me, and I actually was able to kind of using some tutorials, able to create like a RetroPie gaming system. So I'd play all these old school like Nintendo games and Sega games. It was really fun. And there's still lots of stuff I can do with it and like modify it to customize it. So that for me, that's something I would really want to be doing here over the next few months, is kind of finish up my Raspberry Pi retro gaming project.
I feel like I have to clarify, I have to be this person, but Raspberry Pi, not just a
It
food.
is not. No, Raspberry Pis are good, but this is totally a different thing. It's almost like a little. You can actually borrow them from us here at EPL, I believe. But yeah, Raspberry Pi is almost like this little mini. It's like the size of a business card, a little mini kind of mini computer board, and you can do so many different things with it. Like I said, for me, I kind of created a little video game system for myself using different ROMs. But yeah, there's lots of other things you can do with it. You can do stuff with TV and music and so many other things that I won't get into here. But yeah, Caroline, have you ever used Raspberry Pi before?
I'm familiar with them. I know that we've done some staff training on them, but I haven't explored them as fully as I think they. I haven't taken a look at what they can really do. So, yeah, it would be neat to hear what you create.
Yes. How about you, Caroline? What do you plan on doing to kind of pass these next few long months?
I think that similar to something that you just mentioned, I think I need to take some time and really organize my apartment. The spaces that I've lived in look very lived in. Other places are not quite there yet. So between cleaning out and maybe looking at what I don't need anymore, or maybe never did, and looking at opening up some space, and then figuring out how I want to use that space. So looking through and working on that, I think will be interesting. I read The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying
Mm,
Up, a few years ago, and I there are elements of it that resonated with me. Some things I think I can put into practice. I don't know about the whole, piece, but yeah, I think just really kind of focusing on as long as I'm indoors and I'm staying home and staying safe and all that, I wanna make it as Caroline as possible.
nice. So I'll stay in touch with you just to make sure you're drinking enough water. I'm like, Caroline, have you
Yeah,
gone through any more closets today? How is that coming
y
along?
yeah, yeah, this bonus podcast is really
That's
taking shape
right.
now.
So yeah, I wanted to share some of the also other activities that staff are doing, and there's some really fun ones here. A couple of winter themed ones that I have mad respect for. So Vicky Varga, former guest on the show, she said that having seen the writing on the wall a little while ago about having such a diminished social life this winter, I bought a pair of snowshoes and am working to embrace winter. That's something I really struggle with. That's one thing I've heard a lot of people doing is like going out and buying stuff like snowshoes or cross country skis and all this other stuff too. So yeah, so much respect for those people who really embrace winter.
Mhm. Um, I think that Edmonton as a winter city has, even in non-pandemic years, really been working to find ways to get offer things for people to enjoy during these winter months. It's a long winter, even without a pandemic, and where we are right now, I think having some of that optimism and that working to embrace winter spirit will really
Mm,
help us out as we go
yeah.
along. Um, Linda Holmes mentioned that she's spending her downtime scrapbooking a trip around the Mediterranean that her husband and she took in 2019. She recently finished this project and it only came to 10 albums full of scrapbook pages. So, what an incredible representation of that trip for her, and how nice to reflect on, again, times when we went
Yeah,
places.
exactly. It's funny, like in her note there, she said 2019, and it wasn't that long ago, but yet it really was. So yeah, that's actually a pretty good way to kind of go back and revisit some of those nice memories, especially on in what was really such a down year for everybody. One of my favorite comments from staff, and of course, she is a member of the Overdue Finds family, friend of the show, Maria Milanowski. I loved her response, kind of tying back to the whole winter thing. She said, I think some of us have had the privilege of revisiting hobbies or activities we enjoyed when we were younger during isolation. And so if I can turn the tables and suggest an outdoor activity too, go sledding. There's no reason why sledding should just be for kids. And as long as you have a cheap sled and an incline of some sort, you're good to go enjoy the outdoors and get some exercise too. She recommends the hill just by the Walterdale Bridge. She said it's super steep and very fun. So, of course, if you are doing that, please be careful, of course. But I like that idea. I see a lot of kids tobogganing, and that's something too that as adults we should make time for fun, and nothing wrong with tobogganing.
There definitely was a tobogganing hill in the town where I grew up, that slid right out into traffic. But that's just how it was, and everybody knew to slow
Mhm.
down because there would be kids tobogganing. So yeah, I think that's a great way to have fun, and I think that when people think of resolutions, maybe they are sometimes more of the workout, eat healthier, do other things that maybe you've been avoiding, but there's no reason why having fun can't be part of those things.
Mhm.
Meg is another member of the Overdue Finds family who's been on many episodes this year, and she has always been a knitter, but she is planning to step that up this winter and keep working on her now huge scrap blanket. And she is finally knitting herself a sweater. She's made them for others, but never for herself. So we wish Meg the best of luck with that
That's right.
project.
It's going to be really interesting because I think, once all the branches are back open here, hopefully, in the next few weeks, whatever that looks like, I think you're going to see a lot of staff like wearing homemade clothes. It's going to be awesome.
Yes, Amanda Dirksen mentioned that she took up sewing this year. Carol Ma talked about an embroidery project that she's working on. So I think, there's going to be some really great uh, projects hitting the branches this year, and maybe something that staff can talk about with customers and point them in the direction of any EPL resources that they used to do those things.
Caroline, I have to really quickly ask you because I thought that this was probably my favorite response. So it's actually from a coworker of yours at Capilano, Chantel Dore. She said, "My new hobby is learning to play the accordion, which all the staff at Capilano have graciously listened to me go to at length about. I even bring it into practice when I'm working the evening shift." So, Caroline, how is Chantel doing with her accordion playing?
It sounds very good to me. She mentioned they're doing it on the evening shifts. I just want to clarify that's on her break during the
Yes.
evening shift, not while the customers are around. But it's definitely kind of fun to hear her play, and I mean accordions are
They look
complicated.
hard to play.
There's so many. Yeah, like as a child, you kind of have this idea of it's just like in and out and in and out, but there are keys and buttons and all these things, and you're having to do so much at the same time. And it's been exciting to hear how she's doing with that project.
Yeah, we'll
So,
have to have
yeah.
Chantel on the show here in the next couple of months, and I'd love to hear her progress, and maybe she can play a tune for us on the podcast.
hmm So before we get to our roundtable questions, Bryce, can you let our listeners know what's coming up on our next episode, which will be released on Friday, January 15th?
Yeah, so on the very first episode of Overdue Finds in 2018, we talked about some of our favorite titles that you can't find on Netflix. So 3 years later, we're actually going to explore that topic again and share some of our favorite titles that aren't on the major streaming services that you can borrow or actually stream through us here at EPL. Caroline, today, for example, I recommended Happy Happy Joy Joy, the Ren and Stimpy documentary. That's one that isn't on major streaming platforms. So I've got like a small list already. I'm sure you do too. I'm really looking forward to kind of comparing notes with you on that next episode.
Yes, I will be doing some research for it over the holidays
Yeah.
for sure.
All right. So round table question time. Caroline, there's a lot of big movies celebrating release anniversaries in 2021, including Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, and and the Beast. What is one movie that you think we should dedicate an episode to here this year? I sent you a link to a website as well that has some movie anniversaries. So what stood out to you?
Mine's a cheat. It's right there in your question. It's Beauty and the Beast, and it is our animated episode, animated movies episode that we've kind of kept on the back burner as a possibility. But there's just so much to talk about with it. I think maybe 2021 is the year for our animated movie
I think
episode.
so. It's due at some point. Uh,
Yeah.
for me, I'd probably also right there in the title. It would seem silly for a library podcast not to do this. That was Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring, the first movie. I know friend of the show, Kate Gibson. She's already like, I would be dead to her, I think, if we didn't invite her back to be on that episode. One other movie that stood out to me on that list, and I think this maybe will be our Christmas episode in 2021. It is going to be the 75th anniversary of It's a Wonderful Life. And we don't talk a lot about older movies on this show, and that might be a good time to go back and take a look at that classic movie.
Yeah, I like that idea. We'll make a note so that we remember that
Yes,
when it comes up in December.
definitely. So, Caroline, last question. Who is one guest that you would love to have join us for an episode of Overdue Finds this year?
I'm going to say Tanya Talaga. We had pulling back the curtain a little bit on this. I think we had maybe promoted it or teased that we were going to be doing an episode with her earlier this year. She was one of the scheduled speakers for the Forward Thinking Speaker Series. That didn't end up happening because of how events played out. And I would love to either have a chance to talk with her or for us to air an episode. So Tanya Talaga is my answer. How about you?
Nice. For me, going back, one of my favorite episodes that we did last year was our Hub City episode. We spoke with my friend Jody and Stu from the Edmonton Oilers about how that came together. Kind of leaning on that Oilers thing, I would love to chat with Oilers general manager Ken Holland. He's a member of he just got elected to the Hockey Hall of Fame last year, and I've always been fascinated about being a general manager in the NHL. Of course, I've talked about my love of fantasy sports a lot, so I would just love to sit and pick his brain. And also, too, Caroline, he has a big Medicine Hat connection. So he played for the Medicine Hat Tigers as a teenager. He met his wife there. He's got family there and everything. So me and Ken Holland, I think we'd have a great chat if we could somehow get him on the show.
Yeah, let's make this happen.
Yeah, we have to. I know somebody who works there. Maybe we can pull some strings.
Good. So we hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Make sure that you subscribe to the show so that you get all of our new episodes. Please also leave us a review on iTunes. Maybe that could be your New Year's resolution.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell the podcasts I listen to how much I love them.
That's a great idea, Caroline. We always ask people to leave us reviews, so let's do that here. I'm gonna. There's a couple of other podcasts I enjoy listening to. I'm definitely gonna leave them a review later today.
Yeah, I like that.
So don't forget that we'll have a link to absolutely everything that we talked about in today's show notes. And as always, in addition to your reviews, we love to hear from our listeners. So if there is a certain topic or maybe somebody else here in Edmonton that you would love to have see come on Overdue Finds, let us know. You can reach us on Twitter at epl.ca or email us at podcast@epl.ca. And don't forget that you can share your thoughts about the show with us on Twitter by using the hashtag EPL Overdue Finds. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.